John, is this an overreaction when we hear from Philip? The Netflix WB merger will save Hollywood.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to say this is an overreaction. It's an overreaction. However, I want to acknowledge that there are possibilities here that could be very disastrous, which is what everybody's talking about. But there are some possibilities here that could actually work out really good. Again, this is all potential. You know, Netflix buying Warner Brothers does a couple of things. Number one, it infuses a big financial backing to everything Warner Brothers does. They suddenly have a lot more finances to work with, a lot more stability, all that kind of stuff. The ability, if they stay true to the commitment they've had, that they said they want to keep running Netflix and Warner Brothers independently, going to see a lot of product, going to see a lot of stuff. But here's the point where I think it could be very good for the industry. Rob, I have been saying for a number of years, one of the things the Hollywood movie machine needs to master and get down and commit to is the life cycle of a film. It used to be in previous eras. The life cycle of a film was it plays in theaters, then it's away for a while, and then it gets released on VHS, or then it got released on DVD, or then it got released on Blu-ray. Then it had PVOD at home. You know, it had its first life, then it had its second life. Since the pandemic, that life cycle has been really misaligned. It suddenly became either or. Is a movie theatrical or is it a streaming one? And then some people would put movies in theaters and then it would be on streaming in 7 days. You know, it really got out of line, and we've been seeing the entirety of the movie industry suffer for it. One of the good things that could come out of this merger is really getting down to a science, that life cycle again. That Warner Brothers puts out these movies. They have Netflix says they're going to keep their traditional theatrical windows and then feed them many of them right into Netflix, where they get their second life. And then Netflix experiences bigger streaming numbers because they were theatrical films first. And I think there's a potential here that if Hollywood can rediscover that life cycle of a movie that exists between theatrical and then to streaming, that would benefit both of them. Well, then we can see studios like Paramount doubling down on it, studios like Disney doubling down on it. Again, I think to say Netflix merging with Warner Brothers will save Hollywood is an overreaction. But I just wanted to at least acknowledge I think there are some exciting potential things that could come out of it that could be very good, or it could be a disaster. Anyway, Rob, he's saying that this merger, Netflix buying Warner Bros., is going to save Hollywood. Overreaction or not?
I think it's an overreaction. But like you just pointed out, what I like about it, if Ted Sarandos isn't full of, shit, and if he really does want to do what he says he is going to do, what I think it does is shore up the fact that Warner Brothers specifically has made a mandate to partner up with filmmakers. So they're thinking in terms of creativity. And one of the things that has worried me about the whole industry is I don't like analytics-driven filmmaking, where people are like, well, we can only make these movies because our analytics tell us. That is the death of creativity right there. You're getting out in front of, would Sinners have been made if they just looked at analytics? Analytics tell us no one's going to go see this movie. I don't want that to happen. But if you have a studio that's owned by Netflix, that their heads of that studio, Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca, are committed to relationships with filmmakers, that means we're going to continue to get, hopefully, original properties made by great people. Like, look, One Battle After Another might not have made a ton of money. Made some money. It's not a failure. But I'd rather live in a world where that movie exists than a world that it doesn't. And if that movie does in fact win Best Picture, even though it might not have become a huge box office success, it's a prestige thing that the studio was happy they made. And I'm sure Warner Brothers, Netflix will be happy it was made as well. And that means that people like Paul Thomas Anderson are going to continue to make films. Because look, you might not love all of his movies, but I loved Phantom Thread. And it was not the kind of movie that a lot of people would make. I think he made the best movie with Homeboy. Why am I drawing a blank on Adam Sandler?
Oh yeah,
Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah.
I want to see those filmmakers continue to. That's what movies are about, and I do think that Netflix secures Warner Brothers' ability to keep doing that, because the stress, when Warner Brothers was all by itself, the stress of making movies and making huge box office is huge. But having Netflix, it might alleviate some of that pressure because they know everything's going on to streaming, and the Warner Brothers, kept independently, will be feeding in to Netflix, but Netflix also doesn't have to spend that money to make movies. So it's better for Netflix and it's better for Warner Brothers. It alleviates the pressure on both ends. So I do think it kind of does help Hollywood in general.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.